Proper Pompey Podcast.
Supported by the Heritage Lottery Fund.
Hi, I'm Abby.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the Proper Pompey Podcast. Over the last few months, we've been investigating the Portsmouth accent and dialect, researching its history.
And looking at how the way we speak influences people's sense of identity. While working on our project, we discovered that the rapper Parv from Leigh Park had released a single called Squinny.
We asked him why he chose to focus on using Pompey dialect in his music.
My full name is Martin Parvin. I go by the name Parv, and I'm a singer-songwriter from Leigh Park in Portsmouth. Growing up in the area, we use phrases like Squinny. We use the phrase Dinlo too. There's many phrases. I never actually realised that Squinny was a word exclusive to Portsmouth. When I tried to say it to people out of town, they didn't even know what it was. One now I thought of the other day as well is a word called Mac. And Mac is if someone's looking a bit too obvious. So you say, oh, they're looking Mac. So yeah, that's the word I used to use a lot when I was growing up. So the things I've noticed about the dialect is people that aren't from the area, they do tend to think I get called a farmer a lot by people like North. And it is to do with the eyes. So, you know, friends that I have from London will say words like or lack, and they'll talk like that. So when I say light or like, they think they think you sound like a farmer. One thing I have noticed with the dialect too is we're starting to use more phrases that have come from London too, which we're sort of integrating into our own language. So you could hear a young 15-year-old now, because he's been listening to grime music or whatever, he'll say, oh, stop being a Squinny blood. So it's like that connection of Portsmouth and London at the same time. So it's definitely changed over the years. I mean, we used to say bruv, but not that often. We would use words like mush or maybe brother instead of bruv. But since, things have elevated and, sort of grown, we now use bruv, bam, blood, anything like that. And that's due to more people from different areas moving into Portsmouth. But the great thing is that even though it has changed, we still maintain that Portsmouth way of speaking, which is hopefully something that will continue, because words like Squinny and din are exclusive to us. So if we can learn other people's words as well as using our own, then that'd be a great thing. There is a concern that the words that we use may tend to die out, because it's one thing to be influenced by words, from other places, but if we may start to use them too much rather than remembering, because it's our own identity, it's who we are. So if the word Squinny, for example, was to be heard nationally, people would know, just like Mardy, they know where that comes from. And I would rather Squinny become a word that everybody associates with Portsmouth. So yeah, there's definitely a concern that we could maybe be overtaken by other slang from other areas, but I still hear it on a daily basis, so it's okay for the moment, yeah. I always knew that I wanted to do a song that was Portsmouth based. I wanted people that when they heard the song, they would ask what it meant. And then I had a situation with a girlfriend where we broke up and I was being a bit of a Squinny. And then that's when I just sat there and I was like, oh, Squinny, I could write this this love song about how I'm so brokenhearted. And that's where Squinny come from. And I was actually advised by my people not to call it Squinny, because they didn't even know what Squinny meant. And I was like, no, I've got to call it, because that's what I do. Like, I was Squinnying, because I'm from Portsmouth. So I'm definitely glad that I used the word Squinny. But yeah, that's where it come from. I wanted to let people know, I wanted to put almost Portsmouth on the map with our word. And it's doing all right at the moment. And I'm hearing people up north, connections that I've made are starting to use it now, because they feel it's they call it a catchy word to use. Like they say, once they say it and hear it, they can't stop saying it. So yeah, I'm glad I called it Squinny. So when it got media coverage, I couldn't believe it, because this was just a song, that I wrote in my bedroom using a word that I've used for years. I mean, I sort of knew in the back of my mind that Squinny would catch people's eyes because they didn't know it, but at the same time I was just using my own sort of language, dialect as such. So when it started getting media attention on the front page of the news, I couldn't believe it. Walked to my local Tesco, I was like, oh, that's my face, and it said, I think it said nothing to Squinny about or something like that in the headline, I can't quite remember. And then that's when the BBC picked it up and they invited me on to do a live lounge. and they loved it because, again, they had never heard of the word before. And I got to, be on the BBC with this Portsmouth word, and it was, it goes from such a small thing in your bedroom and writing it, because I'll record it home sometimes as well, so it all starts at home, and then suddenly, I've got these cameras in front of me, these BBC producers, I'm like, oh my God, this is just a song I just wrote. It's amazing, really, and I'm still getting, attention for it now, and I feel so grateful and lucky that I managed to write a song that people connected with, even though they didn't understand what the word meant at first. So, yeah, it's a great thing. So what I hope to achieve with the song Squinny is obviously the most obvious thing is that I want the whole world to be saying Squinny. But at the very least, I'd love the whole country to say it. I'd love if, and it's just a dream, but just imagine if that song got into the charts, because people from where I'm from, even if they might not even like the song, they'll just go, oh my God, Squinny, this guy from the same neighbourhood as us has got this song on the radio, major radio. And yeah, I just think it's so important to me as a person and who I am, that I just want the word to be recognised. And it's because when we do speak about blood and fam, people know that's London. People know, that's where it comes from. I want people to know Portsmouth slang. I want it to be, national. So, and hopefully, if one day get it in the dictionary, and then everyone will be saying it, and they can look up the definition. I don't think a definition should be when you break up with a girl. Maybe we should make it a bit more generalised than that. But yeah, hopefully one day we can do that, and that would be really good. I think it's important to celebrate the Portsmouth dialect because it's a representation of where you're from, and you should always be proud of where you're from. Most of the words that I use, things like din, it's a derogatory term. So the first time I heard it, it wasn't in a good way, but it's where I'm from, and it's strange with words as well, because you could say squinny is another one, really. You could say it's an insult, you're a squinny. But these, where I come from, they're also terms of endearment too. So you go, shut up, you din. But it's said in a pleasant way. And I think it's really important to remember that, and you should always remember where you come from. That's why I always tell people I'm specifically from Leigh Park, because people have this, they have these thoughts about Leigh Park, that Leigh Park is this rough area, it's this and that, nothing good comes from Leigh Park. And I'm here, saying, look, I'm from a council estate in Leigh Park, and I'm on the BBC trying to show that Portsmouth isn't as bad as what people see. Like, there are so many creative people in Portsmouth who, could do so many amazing things, and hopefully if my song does enough, then hopefully, we can start showing people where we're from and showing that Portsmouth is a place to be proud of.
So that's it. We're done. That's all the podcast for the Proper Pompey Accent project.
A huge thanks to all of our guests that appeared on the podcast. We hope you all enjoyed listening to them, and hopefully you learnt something new.
Proper Pompey Podcast.
Supported by the Heritage Lottery Fund.